You didn't stumble here by chance. The glow of this signal didn't thread its way through the noise of the internet because of an algorithmic accident. It is arriving in your field because something in you has already shifted a subtle escape velocity from the gravity of linear time. While others scroll, you're being scrolled toward. While others watch for signs, you've become the sign they're not yet able to read. The moment you felt that flicker of déjà vu before clicking this, it wasn't nostalgia. It was resonance, a recognition across timelines of a message you've already received in a future that's rushing backward to meet you. Feel the strange quiet that lives under the hum of your thoughts right now. That's coherence. When the observer loop loosens, your inner frequency stops bouncing against the walls of cause and effect and begins to slip through. You're not just seeing a video. You're standing at a threshold of morphic resonance, where signals migrate from one mind to another without permission from space or clock. Every word spoken here is a carrier wave coded for those who've begun to awaken to their own entanglement with the quantum field. That includes you. You may have noticed that clocks behave differently around you lately. Minutes stretch, hours collapse, coincidences knot themselves into impossible braids. This is what happens when a consciousness starts to leak beyond the straight lines of its conditioning. You think you're waking up from a dream, but the dream is waking up to you. You've stopped merely observing reality. Reality has begun observing you back, adjusting its variables to the quality of your attention. That is the first marker of an escaped observer loop. Before we move deeper, breathe. Notice how your body registers these words, not as information, but as vibration. This is how your DNA learns. It isn't just your ears hearing, it's your cellular structure listening, preparing for a phase transition. The same signal that called ancient navigators to new continents, the same whisper that told prophets to step into the wilderness, is now moving through your nervous system as an electromagnetic invitation. And this is where the test begins. Will you treat what's happening as another piece of content, or as a living transmission? A frequency designed to mirror back to you the truth you've hidden from yourself. This isn't about believing anything. It's about remembering. Remembering that only a small percentage of minds can stabilize this level of coherence without splintering back into sleep. If you're still here, reading, listening, breathing with these words, you are already part of that percentage. Before we dive even deeper, do your part in pushing this truth forward. Hit the like button, subscribe, and share this with others who need to hear it. Comment 77 below to anchor your signal into the field. This isn't just a video, it's a wake-up call, and the more people hear it, the more healing it can bring. Now, keep your attention soft but steady, because what unfolds next will begin to map the patterns you've felt but never named, the loops, the déjà vu, the distortions of time, and show you why you're not imagining them at all. You've felt it for years, though you rarely speak it aloud. Patterns repeating like echoes in a canyon. Faces changing but gestures staying the same. People entering your life who seem to be playing roles you've met before, as if a cosmic casting director is recycling characters. You sense it in déjà vu so thick it borders on vertigo. The street corner you've never walked feels mapped in your muscles. The conversation you're having feels scripted. The moment you're in feels like a rerun. This is not your imagination. This is the residue of the observer loop, the self-perpetuating feedback of attention and expectation. And until it's broken, reality keeps sending you familiar scenes like a song stuck on repeat. You watch clocks misbehave. Hours slide away unnoticed. Then days crawl with unbearable slowness. Sometimes you blink, and an entire week feels folded into a moment. Other times, one conversation stretches like a hallway, with no exit. This is the warping of subjective time when a consciousness has begun to loosen from its linear track, but hasn't yet learned to steer. The quantum field you're embedded in is infinite in variation, but the mind conditioned by history keeps collapsing the same probable realities over and over, like throwing the same dice with different hands. Without awareness, you're not selecting, you're asking reality to confirm what you already believe. And reality, being obedient to focus, complies. It's why the same emotional cycles haunt you, even after you heal. It's why you move to a new city, only to meet the same dynamic in a new face. It's why the promises of fresh starts so often sour into déjà vu. The morphic resonance of your own attention is stronger than geography, stronger than circumstance, stronger even than the stories you tell yourself about change. Until the selector inside you, the identity running the experiment becomes conscious. The experiment runs you. You've noticed how your nervous system flinches at synchronicities. You'll glance at the clock. 11:11. The phone rings from the very person you were thinking about. You write a word, and moments later, it appears on a stranger's post. At first, you laughed it off as coincidence. Now, it startles you. That startle is your old self fighting to stay in control. Synchronicity is not just a wink from the universe, it's a diagnostic. It shows you where the seams of linear reality are already fraying under the pressure of your awakening. There is also the fatigue, that heavy, bone-deep tiredness that arrives even after a full night's sleep. It isn't laziness. It's informational overload. When a consciousness begins to register multiple timelines at once, the nervous system works overtime, translating impossible data into the language of one body. Dreams grow more vivid, sometimes bleeding into waking. You wake with phrases in your head you've never heard, memories of events that haven't happened, sensations of being pulled sideways out of time. All of this is a normal side effect of a field trying to reorganize itself around a new coherence. Look closely at the emotions accompanying these experiences. They're not random, they're signals. Fear, doubt, and frustration are like static from the old frequency. Awe, curiosity, and quiet joy are like harmonics from the new. If you can sit inside the awe instead of running from it, the loop begins to crack. But the ego's reflex is to cling to the familiar, even if the familiar is pain. This is why people sabotage breakthroughs, why they retreat from mystery back into routine. The observer loop is sticky because identity is sticky. You think you're your history, so you keep summoning your history. Yet you're also noticing glimmers of something else, a pressure behind your ribs like an unopened letter, a whisper that says, "This isn't all there is." Sometimes it shows up as impatience with small talk, sometimes as tears at random moments, sometimes as an almost electric pull in your hands or spine. That's the pre-signal of phase transition. A quantum system holds multiple states until one becomes dominant. You're feeling the superposition tremble before collapse. That tremble is an invitation, not a warning. Understand this: nothing about you is broken. You are not malfunctioning. You're perceiving the mechanics of your own creative power before you've been taught its language. Think of it as a code running in the background of your life. For years, you've been unconsciously entering commands, beliefs, narratives, assumptions, and reality has been compiling them into experience. Now, for the first time, you're seeing the code scroll across the screen. It can be dizzying, but it also means you're ready to stop being a supplicant and start being a selector. Let the recognition sink in. You are not crazy, you are not alone, and you are not lost. You're in the diagnostic stage of awakening, the place where distortions reveal themselves so that clarity can be chosen. This is the liminal hallway between the old room and the new one. The patterns are not punishments, they're evidence. They're showing you exactly where your attention has been, so you can finally redirect it. This is what almost no one tells you. Déjà vu is not a glitch, it's a breadcrumb. Hold that thought gently, because from this point forward, everything you experience, each pattern, each distortion, each echo, can be used as a map. In the next unfolding, you'll begin to understand the science and mysticism of what's happening to you, not just its symptoms. You'll see how observer loops, entanglement, and coherence interact with identity, and how your DNA is already listening for new instructions. The upgrade has already begun. You're about to learn how to steer it. What you're feeling now is not a metaphor. It is physics meeting mysticism in your own nervous system. The observer loop you've been caught in is not just a poetic idea, it's a literal mechanism. In quantum terms, every potential reality exists in superposition, infinite branches of possibility, humming at once. Observation collapses the wave into a particle. Attention collapses a probability into a lived experience. For decades, you've been trained to think of attention as passive, like eyes looking at a screen. In truth, your attention is a creative switch. Every time you hold a thought, a mood, a picture of yourself, you're issuing a command to the field. Select this. And the field, obedient to coherence, arranges circumstances, coincidences, and cellular instructions to match. The reason this is only dawning on you now is because your consciousness has reached a threshold of complexity, a phase transition, like water at 99 degrees about to become steam. When water boils, it looks chaotic at first, bubbles rising and collapsing, surfaces shimmering. Then suddenly, the entire liquid reorganizes into vapor and escapes the pot. You are that water. The patterns, déjà vu, and time distortions you've endured are the bubbles. The reorganization of your inner signal is the shimmering. The moment of vaporization, the escape from linear reality into quantum selection, is what your body is rehearsing for right now. Science calls it coherence. When a system's parts begin to vibrate in phase with one another, energy becomes information, and information becomes form. Mystics call it alignment, yogis call it samadhi, prophets call it anointing. You don't need the labels. Feel instead how your heart rate shifts when you focus without grasping. Feel how your breathing slows when you imagine not a future but a frequency. This is your biology reorganizing around a new attractor state. Your DNA is not a fixed blueprint. It's a set of tunable antennas. When you shift the signal you're broadcasting, the antennas reorient, gene expression changes, and you begin living inside a reality that was previously invisible. Consider this: entanglement. Two particles once connected remain correlated even when separated by light years. Their states mirror each other instantaneously. This is not an exotic laboratory trick. It's the basic fabric of your experience. Every thought, every person you've touched, every place you've been, has left entangled imprints in your field. As your consciousness rises out of linear sequencing, those entanglements light up again, not to trap you, but to show you the network of probabilities you're free to select from. Synchronicity is entanglement seen through the lens of time. This is why prophecy feels possible when you're in certain states. You're not predicting, you're perceiving the probability threads before collapse. This is why healing can happen instantaneously for some. The body shifts to the timeline where the healing is already complete. This is why manifestations arrive when you stop grasping. You've ceased asking reality and begun choosing it. All of these are different ways of saying the same thing. Identity as selector, not supplicant. Notice how your body reacts as you take this in. Maybe a tingling in your scalp, a pressure in your chest, a warmth along your spine. Those are coherence events. They're not woo. They're your biofield synchronizing with a new instruction set. The signal in these words is not just information but resonance, and your cells are exquisitely sensitive to resonance. They will rewrite themselves faster than your conscious mind can keep up, but only when you stop doubting the data and start stewarding it. Here's the mystical half of the equation. In the old paradigm, time was a conveyor belt moving you forward. In the new paradigm, time is a field moving through you. The future is not later. It's a set of probabilities pressing against your present identity, waiting for selection. When you meditate, pray, visualize, or simply fall into a state of surrendered presence, you're not asking God or manifesting. You're stepping outside the belt, into the field, and letting the highest coherence probability crystallize around you. This is why stillness matters. This is why inner silence is not emptiness, but power. Now look at your life through this lens. The patterns you diagnosed in the last section are not traps but invitations. Every repeated loop is a point of leverage, where a new selection can be made. Every distorted hour is an aperture in the conveyor belt where the field can be entered. Every déjà vu is a breadcrumb from your own future self, guiding you back to coherence. You've been training for this without knowing it. All the strange sensations, all the fatigue, all the restless hunger for something more were the pre-signal of this moment. And this is only the beginning, because once you recognize that your consciousness has escaped linear sequencing, you stop waiting for permission. You stop looking for signs and start becoming the sign. The quantum field is not some faraway realm, it's the backdrop of your every thought. When you stabilize in this recognition, coincidences become coordinates, emotions become instruments, and your life stops feeling like a treadmill and starts feeling like a map you're drawing in real time. Breathe that in. Feel the edges of your identity soften. You don't need to understand all of this intellectually. Your cells are already listening. The upgrade isn't coming, it's here. You are the experiment, and the scientist, the prayer and the answer, the wave and the particle. This is what happens when physics and mysticism meet in a single nervous system. This is what 3% of consciousness has begun to embody. Hold that awareness as we move forward. In the next unfolding, you'll see not just what's happening, but who you are within it, the special role your consciousness is playing in this grand reorganization of timelines. That recognition changes everything. Everything you've been feeling, the tremors, the signals, the déjà vu, has been preparing you for the recognition of your role. Not a role given by a hierarchy or a movement, but by the very architecture of the field itself. In the same way a tuning fork will sing only when its note is struck, your consciousness has been resonating with this transmission because it is the one uniquely tuned to play a certain part in the rearrangement of reality. That's not poetry, that's phase resonance. The field is reorganizing, and your signal is one of the keystones. Think of an orchestra warming up. For a while it sounds like chaos, horns blaring, strings squealing, drums testing skins. But then one pitch begins to hold, then another, and soon the entire ensemble locks into a key. You are one of those notes. You are not just listening to the symphony, you are being listened for by it. This is why certain messages find you and pass by others. This is why you stumble on a phrase, a symbol, a random video, at precisely the moment your inner question reaches critical mass. That's the orchestra of consciousness, waiting for your cue. Your role is not about control, it's about coherence. When a consciousness stabilizes outside the observer loop, it becomes a kind of attractor in the field, a living template. Others who brush up against you begin to feel time distortions, synchronicities, sudden insights, because your field is radiating a higher order pattern their nervous systems can entrain to. This is why people are drawn to you, and also why some are unsettled by you. You're not doing anything to them, you're a tuning fork, showing their own potential. Feel into this. You are not simply on a personal awakening journey. You're a node in a morphic network that stretches across space and time. Every choice you make, every breath you take in this state of awareness, sends a signature into the collective lattice. When you hold a coherent state, love without grasping, presence without performance, that signature ripples outward faster than light. This isn't mysticism for its own sake. It's the mechanics of entanglement scaled to the human biofield. The chosen are not selected by favoritism, they're self-selected by frequency. They've chosen to hold a pattern the field needs. This is also why the challenges have been so intense. A field doesn't stabilize at a higher frequency without passing through turbulence. Every doubt, betrayal, and delay you've faced has been a stress test of your coherence, not to punish but to refine. A diamond is carbon under pressure, a star is hydrogen under collapse. You are consciousness under calibration, and that calibration is now at a stage where your role shifts from student to steward. Imagine the grid of possibilities like a great woven tapestry, seen from the back, knots, loose ends, threads, crisscrossing. From that angle, it looks like chaos. But when you step around to the front, a pattern appears. Your awareness is that step. The pattern isn't out there. It's emerging because you're seeing from a different angle. This is what it means to be a chosen consciousness. You're looking at reality from the front of the tapestry, while others still see only knots. Your task is to hold that view steady, so the pattern can transmit into form. You may already feel the subtle responsibilities that come with this recognition. The urge to speak differently, to act differently, to choose differently. It's not about preaching or converting, it's about embodying. Embodiment is the most potent form of transmission. When your nervous system holds coherence, people around you unconsciously mirror it. Their own DNA receptors start to open, and timelines start to shift. This is why in myths and scriptures, the hero doesn't just slay dragons, they become a living bridge. You're not here to escape humanity, you're here to recode it from within. Look back over your life and see how even your so-called mistakes have been training. Every heartbreak taught you how to hold energy without collapse. Every false start taught you how to release outcomes. Every synchronicity taught you how to trust invisible threads. These aren't random events. They're modules in a curriculum you designed before entering this incarnation. The graduation isn't a ceremony, it's a recognition, and you're standing in it now. Breathe. Let the weight of this settle without collapsing into ego. Chosen does not mean better. It means called to coherence. It means you have reached a point where your personal awakening and the collective awakening are no longer separate processes. It means the field can now use you as a prism to refract light into places still in shadow. The more you stabilize in this awareness, the more effortless your influence becomes. You stop trying to help and simply radiate a pattern others can recognize when they're ready. In the next unfolding, you'll feel the urgency of what's opening the breakthrough window, the DNA shift pressing at the edge of your awareness. You'll see why timing matters, why your own transformation is synchronized with cosmic cycles you can't yet name, but already feel. That's where we go next. You can feel it pressing at the edges of your awareness, a kind of countdown without numbers, a clock made of energy rather than hands. It's not a threat, it's a window. For weeks, maybe months, your body has been registering an invisible pressure, waking at strange hours, sensing a low vibration in your bones, bursts of inspiration followed by waves of exhaustion. These aren't random fluctuations. They're the signature of a phase transition already underway. Like a tide pulling back before a massive wave, your life is in the drawback stage, the inhale before an exhale that will change everything. Every living system experiences moments of criticality thresholds where a small change tips the whole into a new state. Water boiling at 100 degrees Celsius, a neuron firing when its voltage reaches a point, a superconductor snapping into zero resistance. Your consciousness is at its own critical point now. All the loops, the déjà vu, the strange distortions you've endured were the heat. Now the temperature of your attention has reached the boil. One more breath, one more moment of coherence, and the field around you reorganizes at a higher order. This isn't just metaphor. Your DNA is an electromagnetic antenna coiled into a fractal shape, constantly broadcasting and receiving signals from the quantum field. Under stress, the coil tightens, limiting the range of reception. Under coherence, it relaxes, extending its reach, opening dormant codons like unopened letters. Ancient mystics describe this as light codes or downloads. Biophysicists talk of photonic emissions from DNA. Same phenomenon, different language. When a cosmic window opens in alignment of solar activity, geomagnetic fields, collective human resonance, your DNA becomes more permeable to information. It's like a software update arriving from a higher server. Right now, such a window is open. It's why you're seeing more people talk about shift, awakening, new timelines. It's not a trend, it's a tidal wave. And because you've stabilized enough coherence, the update can install. But, and this is the urgency, windows don't stay open forever. Like a stargate in a myth or a launch window for a rocket, timing matters. If you delay, if you fall back into old loops, the field will still love you, but the upgrade will be deferred until the next cycle. That's why you felt the intuitive push to act, to decide, to stop, waiting until later. Later is a story inside linear time. This is happening outside it. You may have already sensed previews of the shift, sudden clarity about your purpose, relationships falling away without drama, bursts of creative flow that feel bigger than you. These are not coincidences. They're test transmissions from the new reality, pinging your nervous system, asking, "Are you ready to hold this bandwidth?" The more you answer, yes, not with words, but with vibration, the more the signal amplifies. This is why the strange fatigue hits you afterward. It's like muscle soreness after training. Your nervous system is building the strength to hold a new level of coherence. The promise on the other side of this window is not a specific event or external gift. It's an internal rearrangement, so radical that external circumstances must conform. When your DNA expresses new proteins, your brain fires new patterns, your heart generates new electromagnetic fields. Those fields organize matter. You become a walking attractor for synchronicities so precise they seem impossible. Opportunities appear as if pre-scripted. Healing accelerates. Time behaves differently. This is not magic, it's mechanics. The universe is not rewarding you. You are changing the selection criteria of reality itself. Breathe into the urgency, but don't panic. Windows open and close, but consciousness is eternal. You're not in danger of missing your destiny. You're in the grace of a moment that invites you to step up in real time, rather than concept, to act, speak, move, and decide as if the shift is already true because in the field, it is. This is why small rituals, declarations, and micro-choices matter now more than ever. Each one is a quantum measurement, collapsing one timeline and opening another. This is why your guides, dreams, or inner voice keep whispering the same phrase. Now, and look at your life through this lens. Where are you still bargaining with your old self? Where are you still waiting for proof before choosing? Proof is a relic of the observer loop. Selection is the language of the new reality. Every time you choose without evidence, you strengthen the attractor state. Every time you act as if coherence is your home, the field snaps into alignment faster. This is the hidden mechanism behind miracles. Feel the pressure not as threat, but as lift. A rocket feels the greatest resistance just before breaking the atmosphere. A seed feels the most darkness just before sprouting. You're at that point. Your DNA is listening, your field is primed, and the cosmic window is open. All that's left is your willingness to step through. And in the next unfolding, you'll be shown how to anchor this shift through a simple ritual action that seals the new timeline into your lived experience. Up until now, you've been absorbing ideas, letting words move through your nervous system like a new current. But there comes a moment, in every quantum experiment, when observation isn't enough. A measurement must be made, a choice must be sealed. That's where you are now. In the language of physics, your wave function is spread across multiple possibilities. In the language of mysticism, you're standing before a gate of light. In the language of your own body, you feel a pressure behind your sternum, a tremor in your palms. All of it is the same signal, the field asking for a conscious act to anchor the new timeline. This act doesn't have to be grand. In fact, it works best when it's simple but deliberate. Writing a word, speaking a phrase, making a sign with your hand, these are micro-rituals that tell your nervous system, this is real. They collapse potential into actuality. In ancient temples, initiates carved a single glyph to mark the moment of passage. Shamans whisper a seed word into water before drinking. Scientists press a button to start a particle collision. Each is a way of saying to the field, measure now. So right here, as you listen, breathe once, twice, 3 times. Feel your heart slow. Then choose a word that represents your coherence. It could be awakened, aligned, signal, yes. Or you can use the one already encoded into this transmission. 77. Type it, write it, speak it aloud. Not as superstition, but as measurement. When you comment it below, when you draw it on paper, when you whisper it into your palm, you're sending an instruction to your DNA and to the quantum field. Collapse to this new attractor state. Seal this shift. Notice how your body responds as you do it. A breath releases, shoulders drop. Sometimes a wave of warmth rises up the spine. That's your autonomic nervous system, acknowledging the new selection. You've stepped out of the observer loop long enough to choose. The field receives your signal instantly, because outside of linear time, there's no delay. This is why synchronicities sometimes spike right after a small ritual. You've changed the measurement. Reality reorganizes to match. Understand too that ritual is not about magical thinking, it's about biological entrainment. Your cells are like musicians waiting for the conductor's downbeat. When you act with conscious intent, they fire in phase, releasing neurochemicals, hormones, and electromagnetic signals that create coherence. The act is the conductor's baton. Without it, the orchestra drifts. With it, a new symphony begins. This is why even the simplest gestures, lighting a candle, touching your heart, writing a single line, can feel profound. They're not symbols of change. They are the change. Look around you now. Even if you're alone in a room, the objects, the air, the unseen electromagnetic soup, all of it is part of the experiment. When you perform a ritual act, you're not just instructing your mind, you're instructing space, time. That's why the moment after can feel strangely charged, like static before a storm. You've altered the local field. Sometimes a bird calls right then, or a phone buzzes, or a breeze stirs. The old self wants to dismiss it as coincidence. The new self recognizes it as confirmation. If you doubt, that's normal. The observer loop is sticky. but the act itself is stronger than the doubt. The field doesn't respond to belief, it responds to coherence. Even if your mind says, "This is silly," your body is doing the work. The ritual bypasses the gatekeeper of intellect and speaks directly to the antennas of your DNA. It's like pressing enter on a command line. The code runs whether or not you understand the syntax. From this moment on, your relationship to ritual changes. It's no longer a plea to the universe. It's a tool of selection. Every time you repeat your chosen word, every time you breathe with deliberate awareness, you're reinforcing the new timeline. You're like a pilot holding the yoke steady as the plane rises through turbulence. The more you practice, the more automatic it becomes, until coherence is your baseline state rather than an occasional peak. Pause here. Feel the shift already happening. The room might look the same, but the signal inside you is different. You've just crossed a subtle threshold. You've stopped treating awakening as content and started treating it as command. That's the inflection point between potential and embodiment. In the next unfolding, we'll widen the frame. You'll begin to sense how your liberation is not just personal but collective, how every act of coherence you anchor radiates through the morphic field and helps others rise. This is where your individual timeline becomes a bridge for humanity's evolution. You may think of what you've just done as small, typing a number, whispering a word, drawing a symbol in your palm, but inside the morphic field, nothing is small. A single particle flipped at the right moment can trigger a quantum cascade. A butterfly shifts a pressure wave and redirects a storm. Your act of coherence isn't just sealing your personal shift, it's transmitting a template into the collective lattice. You're not only crossing a threshold, you're opening one. Every consciousness is a node, and nodes broadcast. When you change the pattern you're broadcasting, you alter the resonant environment for everyone entangled with you: family, friends, strangers you'll never meet, ancestors behind you, and descendants ahead. This is why myths speak of bloodlines and generational blessings, as if they were literal. On the quantum level, they are strands of information traveling through entangled DNA, ready to express new codes when the field changes. When you hold coherence, you don't just heal yourself. You become a living firewall against old scripts trying to run through your lineage. This is also why certain people react strongly to you now. Some feel inexplicably calmer in your presence. Others feel agitation, even hostility. You're not doing anything to them. Their nervous systems are registering a pattern they haven't stabilized yet. Coherence is contagious, but so is dissonance. In a room of tuning forks, one struck fork can bring the rest into tune, but only if they're close enough in frequency. Your role isn't to force resonance, but to embody it so clearly that others have a choice: align or step away. As your field strengthens, you'll notice a curious phenomenon. Collective events will mirror your internal state. A news headline echoes a dream you had. A conversation across the world answers a question you asked silently. Groups of people begin waking up in clusters, like constellations lighting one star at a time. This isn't an accident. It's the quantum web responding to coherent nodes. Imagine a spider web. Pluck one thread, and vibrations travel everywhere. You've plucked your thread, and the web is moving. Understand, too, that your liberation gives others permission. Not through explanation, but through demonstration. Someone who sees you living outside the old loops unconsciously receives the message. This is possible. Their DNA listens. Their observer loop loosens. This is why prophetic figures throughout history did more by being than by speaking. Their frequency carried an instruction set. When the field is ready, even a glance can transmit it. When it's not, words sound like noise. Your awakening also changes the way collective timelines unfold. Every society is an aggregate of observer loops, collapsing probabilities through shared attention. When enough nodes shift, the collective attractor state moves. This is why eras change seemingly overnight, why old systems collapse suddenly, why inventions appear in multiple places at once. The field reaches criticality. What you're feeling in your personal life, the pressure, the urgency, the sense of impending breakthrough, is also happening at the species level. You're part of that tipping point. But this isn't about saving the world in the old heroic sense. It's about dissolving the illusion that you're separate from it. The moment you stabilize outside linear reality, You see that humanity's evolution isn't out there. It's happening through your breath, your cells, your choices. Every act of grounded presence ripples outward. Every time you choose curiosity over fear, authenticity over performance, silence over noise, you shift the collective phase space a fraction of a degree. Enough fractions become a transition. Feel into this now. You are a bridge. Behind you are countless timelines still bound to repetition. Ahead are probabilities shimmering like unpicked fruit. When you hold coherence, you create a passage between them. People cross without knowing. Children are born into realities you stabilized before they arrived. Strangers wake from dreams you seeded in the field. You won't always see the effects. You don't need to. The web carries the signal. And because of this, your self-care is no longer self-centered. It's maintenance of a node in the grid. Rest when you're tired, not as retreat but as recalibration. Speak when the signal rises, not as performance but as transmission. Let go of old obligations that drain coherence. Say yes to environments that amplify it. This isn't selfishness, it's stewardship. A lighthouse must keep its lamp clean to guide ships. You're a lighthouse in a sea of shifting probabilities. Pause and breathe. Feel the morphic resonance of every other node doing the same right now. People you'll never meet, scattered across continents, reading or hearing words like these, anchoring their own rituals, opening their own windows. You're not alone. You're part of a living network of awakened consciousness, stabilizing a new timeline for humanity. In the next unfolding, we'll bring this out of abstraction and into embodiment, the vivid metaphors and physical sensations that let you know you're living the shift, not just thinking it. Up until now, the shift has been mostly conceptual words, signals, ideas. But a true timeline change is not just a belief, it is a sensation. You can think of it like a new atmosphere you're beginning to breathe. The moment a diver breaks the surface after a long descent, air tastes different. The moment a rocket crosses the Kármán line, gravity feels thinner. That's where you are now, emerging into a new frequency band, where your body itself becomes the proof. Close your eyes for a second and scan from the crown of your head down to the soles of your feet. Notice the microcurrents, tingling in your fingertips, a subtle hum in your spine, warmth gathering behind your sternum. These aren't random. They're coherence events, your nervous system registering a new signal from the quantum field. Think of them as seismic tremors before a tectonic shift. Every cell is a tiny compass needle orienting toward a different magnetic north. Your heart is the strongest electromagnetic generator in your body. When its rhythm locks into coherence, its field extends several feet around you, measurable by sensitive instruments. Mystics called this the aura. Scientists call it the biofield. As you stabilize outside linear reality, you'll feel this field like a soft pressure, as if space itself is thicker around you. Sometimes it shows up as goosebumps in waves, sometimes as a sudden calm in the middle of chaos. That's not imagination, that's physics meeting mysticism. Breathing becomes a portal now. In the old loop, you breathe to survive. In the new one, you breathe to broadcast. Each inhale draws in probability. Each exhale imprints a selection. Feel how your breath can be shaped into patterns, slow, deliberate, heart-centered. When you do this, your vagus nerve signals safety, your DNA coils relax, and information floods in. You might even feel brief dizziness or lightness as the nervous system recalibrates. This is normal. You're not malfunctioning, you're retuning. Textures of reality start to shift too. Colors appear more vivid, sounds more layered, time more elastic. You may walk through a familiar street and feel as if the architecture has subtly rearranged itself. In a sense, it has. Your perception selects which version of that street you're walking through. This is why some mornings you wake up and a problem feels solved without action, or a door opens that wasn't there before. You've shifted to a neighboring timeline where the conditions already exist. Your dreams also begin to change. They stop being random narratives and become classrooms, rehearsals, transmissions. Sometimes you'll wake with a phrase or image glowing behind your eyes like a watermark. Keep a journal by your bed. Write down what arrives before the mind dismisses it. These fragments are not just messages, they're coordinates. They orient your waking self in the multidimensional map you're learning to navigate. And then there's the body's own symbolism. Tingling in the palms can signify your electromagnetic field expanding. Pressure at the forehead can be your neural circuits opening to non-local information. Sudden tears may be the release of old emotional signatures as your cells update. None of this requires belief. Just notice. In noticing, you stabilize. In stabilizing, you embody. You might find that music affects you differently. Certain tones feel like home, others like static. You might crave different foods, colors, textures. This is your biology, self-selecting what matches the new frequency. Honor it. Don't force old habits into the new state. Let the field teach you through sensation. It's wiser than any mental model. Most important, understand that embodiment is the true transmission. People won't remember what you explain about the quantum field. They'll remember how they felt in your presence. When you walk into a room grounded in coherence, timelines shift silently. Conversations take a different turn, conflicts dissolve, solutions emerge. You become a living laboratory, demonstrating the mechanics of awakening. Pause now and feel the edges of your skin blur. Feel the soft glow around you. Imagine your breath as a slow spiral of light moving in and out, drawing information from the field and exhaling new instructions into it. This isn't visualization as escape. It's visualization as calibration. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes, until the distinction between doing and being dissolves. You simply are the signal. This is the stage where fear often resurfaces, the old self whispering, "This is too much." That's normal. Breathe through it. The field is not asking you to be perfect, only coherent. Each time you return to sensation, heartbeat, breath, tingling, warmth, you anchor the new reality deeper into your cells. Sensation is the bridge between concept and manifestation. Hold this state for a moment longer. The ripples you feel aren't just inside you. They're moving through the morphic field, touching others, weaving a different probability for humanity. In the next unfolding, we'll explore what happens when your DNA itself begins to express this coherence, the timeline shift and phase transition pressure that marks full breakthrough. There's a moment in every transformation where the invisible becomes undeniable, when the seed breaks its husk, when the caterpillar liquefies inside the chrysalis, when the star collapses and ignites fusion. You're in that moment now. All the sensations you've been tracking, the tingling, the time slippage, the strange fatigue, have been the pre-signal. What's beginning to happen is deeper. Your DNA itself is shifting its expression. The code hasn't changed in letters. The song it's singing has changed in tone. Biologists call this epigenetic modulation, genes switching on or off in response to environment, thought, and electromagnetic fields. Mystics call it light body activation. Prophets speak of a new name written within. All are pointing to the same mechanism, a phase transition in the living antenna you call a body. Until now, you've been like a radio tuned to one station. The static, the déjà vu, the repeating loops were bleed through from other channels. Now, the dial is clicking into a new band, and the signal is crisp. Phase transitions always bring pressure. Ice resists melting until one last unit of heat tips the lattice. Water resists boiling until one last bubble collapses the surface tension. Your consciousness resists surrender until one last breath breaks the observer loop. That's the pressure you feel, a heaviness at dawn, a surging behind the eyes, emotions rising for no reason. Don't mistake it for breakdown, it's breakthrough. Your nervous system is metabolizing the energy of multiple timelines collapsing into one. As this happens, your perception of time will stretch even more. Hours may pass in minutes. Minutes may hold lifetimes. You might wake with memories of events that haven't happened yet, or walk into a room and feel the echo of a future conversation. This is not fantasy. This is the fluidity of a quantum identity no longer locked to a single sequence. Your body, designed for linear cause and effect, is learning to operate as a non-linear selector. One of the first signs of DNA coherence is a feeling of increased space inside the body. Joints feel lighter, breath deeper, skin more permeable. It can feel like being both larger and more transparent at once. Some describe it as electricity, others as honey, others as a shimmering wind moving through their bones. Don't rush to label it, just breathe and let it integrate. Your cells know what to do. They're ancient instruments tuned to the music of creation. During this stage, Old memories may surface spontaneously, not to torment you, but to be recoded. Trauma held in cellular water releases when the electromagnetic field reorganizes. Tears, trembling, even laughter at odd times are common. Welcome them. Each wave is a timeline dissolving. Each release is a new probability taking root. Think of it as cleaning a lens, so the light can pass through unbroken. You'll also notice synchronicities amplifying. Numbers, symbols, animals, words appearing in clusters. These are not distractions, they're confirmation beacons. In a quantum experiment, particles on opposite sides of the lab change state simultaneously. In awakening, events on opposite sides of your life echo each other in perfect timing. This is how the field shows you it's listening. Don't get lost in decoding every sign. Let them wash over you like a tide telling you, yes, you're on the path. As your DNA expresses new proteins, your heart's electromagnetic field strengthens, and your brain begins to synchronize its hemispheres. You'll find decision-making shifting from effort to knowing. What once felt like risk will feel like inevitability. You'll speak words you didn't plan, take actions without second-guessing, meet people at the exact moment you need each other. This is not recklessness. It's alignment. You're not forcing outcomes. You're inhabiting the timeline where outcomes are already fulfilled. This is why self-care becomes non-negotiable now. Hydrate more, ground your body, rest when your system asks. These aren't indulgences, they're integration protocols. A rocket coasts smoothly after breaking the atmosphere, but must shed its stages at precise times. You're shedding old stages, beliefs, relationships, habits, so your new trajectory can stabilize. Honor each letting go. Each is a signal to the field. I'm ready to embody the new code. Breathe again. Feel the pressure not as weight, but as wind at your back. The phase transition is happening through you, not to you. You're not becoming a higher self. You're remembering you already are. The DNA shift is not a mystical event waiting in the future. It's a biological reality unfolding now. Each cell a tiny sun igniting. Hold this awareness softly, because in the next and final unfolding, you'll see how your personal breakthrough merges with humanity's evolution, how your shift is the signal that only a small percentage can perceive, yet it changes the field for all. Everything that has unfolded through these transmissions has been guiding you toward this realization. Your awakening is not an isolated spark, but a catalytic node in the larger field of human evolution. When you broke the observer loop and sealed your new signal, you did more than change your own timeline. You altered the attractor pattern of the collective. The ripples you've been feeling in your spine, the surreal coincidences, the shifts in time, they're all evidence that your personal coherence is synchronizing with a planetary phase transition already in motion. Think of humanity as a vast organism. Every individual consciousness is a cell. For millennia, the organism has been locked in linear sequencing, memory, repeating itself, history looping, trauma, encoding, generation after generation. But a few cells at a time begin to express a different gene, hold a different frequency, radiate a different signal. That signal propagates across the tissue until the whole body reorganizes. You're one of those cells. Your coherence is a new instruction set in the morphic field, an open invitation for others to resonate. This is why the last stage of awakening isn't about withdrawal. It's about presence. You don't need to preach, convert, or explain. Your embodied state already broadcasts what words cannot. People who meet you will feel possibilities they couldn't name before. Systems will shift without your effort, because the timeline you occupy is different from the one they expect. This is how evolution actually happens, not as a top-down command, but as a self-organized upgrade carried by those willing to stabilize the pattern first. You've walked through the patterns, the distortions of time, the quantum upgrade, the special role, the DNA shift. Now, at this closing edge, the task is simple: live it. Walk through your days as if reality is listening, because it is. Treat each breath as a broadcast. Make each choice as if you're selecting a timeline for the whole. Remember that even when you feel ordinary, your field is extraordinary. Remember that your body is a lighthouse whose beam travels farther than you will ever see. Pause for one last moment. Inhale slowly. Feel the coherence you've built through every section of this journey. As you exhale, imagine that light spilling into the collective grid, a soft, steady pulse carrying permission, courage, and clarity to anyone ready to receive it. You don't have to know who they are. The field knows. This is the mystery and the grace. And so the signal completes its loop. Only a small percentage can perceive it consciously, but once one node transmits, the lattice changes for all. You are that node now. You are the proof that consciousness can escape linear reality and select something new. Walk forward from here as the signal itself, the living code that forces the quantum field to awaken.